Greetings, George Shevchuk here, White Post Studio. I'm here with Ben,
Benjamin Scalera.
Daniel Scalera.
and today we're going to be talking about energy. I made took some notes this morning that I wanted to read, and then we'll talk about these items, and I hope you find it interesting. It is my opinion that energy is just another arena for racketeering by the ruling oligarchs of the world. First concept that I want to introduce here, which is important to comprehend in order to grasp the big picture, is that like royalty of old, oligarchs today have a bond with each other that transcends any bond or loyalty that they have to the general population. Unlike royalty, however, the oligarchs don't even have any loyalty whatsoever to the nation, to any nation, or the nation that they live in. As a matter of fact, they are anti-nationalism and are globalists. The oligarchs of the West, for example, have closer bonds and loyalties to oligarchs in China, for instance, than to the people of the countries that they reside. Secondly, these oligarchs actually rule most of the world and are very hostile to any nation that steps out of their will, like Russia today, for an example. You may ask about Chinese oligarchs and how they support Russia. I believe the Chinese oligarchs pretend to go along with Western oligarchs as long as it suits them, but they are fooling Western oligarchs and are using them as useful idiots. This is possible because Western oligarchs are blinded by emotions that are ungodly, and therefore they deceive themselves as all do that are antichrist. China and the West are destined to clash. The two big mistakes that Richard Nixon made was taking the dollar off the gold standard and opening up the gates to China. China was a sleeping dragon that should not have been awakened and fed. By the way, we fed China at our national expense because the traders for profit, oligarchs amongst us, facilitated this theft of the USA, of our jobs and wealth. Thirdly, this oligarch-controlled world keeps many secrets and knowledge from this world that is mostly under their control. Up to this point, I wanted to set the stage in order to proceed with my thoughts and theories in regards to the subject of energy. There are many energy-related technologies that have been invented that would be great benefit to humanity. Some of these the oligarch-controlled governments control. Some were patents bought by our controllers from the inventors and locked up to prevent their realization. And in a few cases where the inventors refused to sell, they were murdered. These invented and subsequently hidden technologies are difficult to prove or explain. But every now and then, a energy that is so well known scientifically that the oligarchs' establishment cannot hide it completely, so they simply ignore it, and because they, for the most part, control the microphone and media of the world, they can keep the overwhelming majority from being aware or caring about what they choose to censor by omission from the big guns of media that are the most prestigious and highly regarded by the sheeple of the world. So the question is, are you a sheep? Well, I got to tell you, I am, but not a sheep of the world, but a sheep of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Jesus does not want to control us. He wants us to have the wisdom to come to himself voluntarily. God and his only begotten Son are all about order and the greatest version of order is love. Now, the subject matter. Thorium molten salt reactors are what the oligarch controlled establishment does not want you to be aware of. Among many other things, they don't want you to be aware of that, among many other things. So I want to go into some wild stuff here, but there's good topics of conversation. One of the first things that I want to point out, and you'll see how they relate, is the whole concept of UFOs. And I want to tell you that it is my personal opinion that UFOs are because of extraterrestrials is just a bunch of bull. And the reason why I feel that way, the reason why I feel that there are no extraterrestrials visiting our planet, with the exception of maybe Satan and his fallen angels, which are demons, is because it is much more likely that this technology is technology that is has been invented and has been nurtured here on Earth and is just being kept secret from the general population. The world has this technology that would make energy free, and therefore it would make it very difficult for the oligarchs to control and rule this planet. We know about inventions that started, we know about inventors that started discovering this technology. The Nazis of Germany made many advances, and they were brought to the USA and further developed in places like the infamous Area 51. Therefore, people like Searle that made devices that did not fly, but their weight would dramatically be reduced while they were in operation. There is much more evidence. You have to do your own research if you so desire. It is amazing to me that people find it difficult to believe this because of their conditioning, but have no problem believing that extraterrestrial beings are secretly visiting our planet. If I am correct, and I think I am, there are extrapolations that can be made from this hypothesis. Number one, there are probably sanctuaries for the elite in places like Antarctica because heat and greenhouses can be operated virtually for free. Number two, there are probably huge underground networks all over the world because this technology and variations of it would enable the rapid and inexpensive creation of underground tunnels and chambers. Number three, Elon Musk and people like him are made wealthy by this world system because he is the Pied Piper that is misleading and redirecting the world away from comprehension of these technologies. With BS companies like his SpaceX and his burrowing company that uses antiquated technology to mislead the masses. It is the possession of this technology and the power that comes from it that creates the mindset of the declaration of the Georgia Stone Slabs, where the elite oligarchs now view us as useless eaters that consume the limited resources of the earth. An earth that obviously belongs to the superior. And who are the superior? The people that own and control this technology, of course. Well, you may hear all this and conclude that I am a nut, and maybe I am. But if all this is not true, then you must admit it is nevertheless great sci-fi. So what do you guys think?
What's the technology you're talking about?
Well, we're talking about, the whole notion that there is free energy in the world, but it's kept from the masses.
Free how? Where?
Well, like for example, thorium is not free. That's the one we know about. But thorium is not used and it's not moved forward, and nobody will give you a rational explanation as to why.
It's rather more complex than regular nuclear energy because it involves very high temperatures and very caustic chemicals. It like it involves fluoride salts, and fluorine is the most electronegative element, and it's also molten, which means it's very high temperatures. So while it could potentially be more useful, it's a little more complicated to make than normal nuclear reactors. And so I'm not sure if anyone has actually been successful in a commercial thorium reactor yet.
Well, they say that there was, I'm trying to now remember the name of this research lab in Tennessee. It was a government research lab, Seabrook maybe?
Mhm.
But apparently during the late 60s and early 70s, we had a working thorium molten salt reactor in operation in the United States. But I understand that you're right about the corrosion. From what I understand, they were using certain types of nickel-based pipes to resist the corrosion, and it is high temperature. You're right about that too. But you got to remember, the one good thing going for it is that it's not a high pressure system; it's a low pressure system.
You mentioned that, but was it able to be built to scale? Was it able to be built to something that could last for years and years?
No, probably not. I mean, it was a prototype. I mean,
Right.
It was the first. It was the first one. But you gotta, from what I understand, countries like China and India are moving forward with this technology.
Yeah, India has one of the largest thorium deposits in the world, I believe. So it's beneficial for them in the first place because they have it there.
You know who else, by the way, has a large thorium reservoir of Norway,
Okay.
and also it's so plentiful that from what I read, when they mine rare earth minerals, thorium is like a byproduct that is they don't even know what to do with it. It's like what is that fluoride that they put in our drinking water because they don't know what to do with it, you know. But it's a byproduct of other industrial processes. But so anyway, I've come to the conclusion. You guys may not agree that we're being hoodwinked.
Maybe.
You know.
What's this tunneling technology you speak of too?
Oh, for Elon Musk.
No.
Well, that opens up a whole can of worms. It's really going to make people think that I'm crazy. But what the hell? It's entertaining anyway, right? So let's see what people out there think. And by the way, maybe we can announce our new email address in case somebody wants to respond with their own thoughts to what we say, which is
White Post Studio at protonmail.com. We use Proton Mail because they're known for privacy and they don't use the content of your email for advertising.
You know that the reason why I believe, or I believe that they have the technology to be able to make tunnels and chambers underground, is because of a book that I read by a Dr. Judy Wood that had to do with the Twin Towers coming down on 9/11. And actually her book was called Where Did the Towers Go? As a matter of fact, I should show you the book because some of the physics in that book is a little bit beyond my level, and I know that that's probably something that you, Dan, could handle very easily. So I'd like for you to look it over and see if the physics that she has in there makes sense.
There's a lot of theories about the Twin Towers, and I mean, there's some conspiracy theories that maybe it was planned. The government did it, or something like that. Have you ever seen the documentary called Loose Change?
Yeah, I have, but I got to tell you, I've never seen anything. I've seen that documentary. I've seen presentations made by, I forgot, it was some large number of the architects that got together, whether it was 100 or 1,000 of them, I don't remember, but they were making arguments about how this was, there's more to this than meets the eye.
Right.
But I think that Dr. Judy Wood's book is the one that I found to be most fascinating because she doesn't actually make any claims, but she shows you the evidence, and her basic feeling is that wherever the evidence leads us, that's where we're going to go. So she actually did it the way a forensic investigation would be conducted. And one of the things that I mean, it's a little off topic because we're supposed to be talking about energy, but the thing is that it seems to me like there was a high energy device that was being used to basically disintegrate those buildings, because those buildings, when they fell into their footprint, there should have been a debris pile that should have been 20 to 30 stories high, but the debris pile was actually like 1.5 stories high, which is physically impossible. The other thing that's very impossible is that those buildings were built in something that is known in architectural terms as a bathtub. And the bathtub was to keep the Hudson River from flooding the towers. And if those towers would have came crashing down in the pancake effect, that you would probably see on a Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote type of a cartoon.
You mean like controlled demolition?
Yeah, like a controlled demolition, which I, by the way, think that building number 7 was controlled demolition. But if those two big towers would have come down in a similar way, they would have ruptured the bathtub, and the Hudson River would have flooded. So when you read the book, I mean, unless you're interested in what really happened, you cannot come to any logical conclusions without reading Dr. Judy Wood's book, Where Did the Towers Go? I highly recommend that book. It was pricey, but it was well worth it, and I think that in history it'll go down as one of the best works of investigation that has ever been written. It's a shame that a similar investigation was not done in other questionable events in our history, like the Kennedy assassination. So if I'm correct that this technology caused the towers to disintegrate the way I believe they did, this same technology could also be used to burrow a tunnel underground in literally a tiny fraction of the time that is now taken to make a similar tunnel with the burrowing kind of equipment that Elon Musk uses in his burrowing company.
What do you mean by disintegrate?
I mean, there were parts of that building that disintegrated into dust before they hit the ground.
Yes.
Which cannot be explained by any kind of explosion, not even thermite.
Okay, but even if you're doing for tunneling, you still need a big system to remove the dust that's created.
Not if it's turned to dust.
Yes.
I mean, all you need is a broom.
You need to.
I'm only kidding.
Okay, but then you have to take the dust out of the tunnel.
That's
Yeah. Well, I mean that would be.
That's most of the contraption of boring machines, similar to what Elon Musk uses. There's spinning blades at the front that cut into it to make it into dust, and then there's a big conveyor belt system that removes the debris, and there's also stuff that puts ports around as it goes along.
Yeah, but grinding the rock into dust, I would imagine, is the big part of the job. Removing the dust comparatively, I think, is not the major problem.
So how hard of a substance can this disintegrate?
Look, this is all theoretical. I'm not intimately familiar with this technology. It's strange that paper, in some cases, do you realize that not one filing cabinet, hardly one toilet was found in the debris? All of these things just basically vaporized.
Interesting.
So there's an invention I saw in a documentary for Tesla. He made something that was able to vibrate buildings.
You mean Nikola Tesla?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nikola Tesla made something that could vibrate buildings at a specific frequency that such a small device could take down an entire building.
There was a word that's associated with that. I forgot what it is. It's something like harmonics. It has to do with resonance. That's it.
Resonant frequency.
Resonant frequency. See what if you can get the correct resonant frequency, then you can get the waves to build it up, build the tension up to the point where there's a point where it cracks or it ruptures.
Right. That's exactly it. So it keeps resonating with a certain frequency that weakens the building, and then the entire thing comes down with that resonating frequency.
I really believe that Nikola Tesla was the guy that actually set the stage for all of these new developments that started coming along, maybe some of them during his lifetime. But I think at some point the establishment realized that we cannot share this technology or the knowledge of this technology with the general public.
Right. If you're talking about hidden secrets about energy and inventions related to energy, there's a lot of that comes from Nikola Tesla. There's stories that his notes were taken away by the government after he died, CIA or whatever it was, and then his notes were hidden away by the government that didn't want you to know about it. He had certain kinds of energy experiments and inventions.
Wardenclyffe.
Especially done at Wardenclyffe. There was a big thing that he was trying to do to create energy for the whole world. He wanted to make energy that resonated with the frequency of the planet. So in the same kind of way that he had something that could destroy an entire building with just the right frequency, he was trying to find the right frequency to harness energy from the planet and give it to people in a form that they could use for their own power.
You must have read about this, that when he came to J.P. Morgan and with his theories and philosophies, J.P. Morgan said, "How can I put a meter on this?" And Tesla said, "You can't." And that was the end of his financial backing.
Well, as far as Tesla knew, there was no way to put a meter on something that's wireless, because he was trying to give wireless power. It was something that was taking the energy from the frequency of the planet, and it was like a frequency that would go around the planet.
You know, I can imagine that there was something to that. And but again, that could just fall under the category of all the different types of technologies that are being hidden from us. Because why would they allow us to have free energy when they could profit from it?
Right. If you're talking about free energy, this research from Tesla Wardenclyffe was the only thing that I think could really be considered free energy. It's not like the energy's coming from nowhere. It's coming from the stratosphere and the way the planet naturally works. So the energy does have a source, but it's free to us, that we don't actually have to burn anything to create it.
Yeah, I think that it's very possible that that's true. The thing is that we need to have other people that are more knowledgeable than we are to dialogue with us and to be able to contact us on the email address that you gave earlier, so that we could work together to try to find out what's going on. I do know that this is a dangerous subject, by the way, because if one person makes too much noise, you know, that he's threatening the power and the money of the establishment. But if there's a lot of people involved in this, then I think that it reduces the risk. There's other things that make me very suspicious about the establishment in regards to energy. For example, in my different types of research that I made in regards to energy, I found out, for example, did you know that the Hoover Dam, which was poured, all the concrete in the Hoover Dam was poured, like what, almost 100 years ago?
Yeah, about that much.
And that was such a large volume of concrete, and you know, concrete cools as it goes through the chemical reaction that it goes through to become hard concrete. And because of that tremendous volume of concrete that was poured in the Hoover Dam, that the Hoover Dam is actually still cooling today.
Yeah, concrete is generally known to take a long time to set, and the longer it sets, the stronger it gets.
So the reason why I bring that up is because there seems to be a relationship between the amount of mass and the time that it takes for that mass to cool down in temperature. I think that's pretty basic physics, right?
Sure.
So, why can we not collect the heat from the sun in the summer and put it in a thermal storage battery underground and store that heat to be used for heating homes in the winter? And I think that is very doable and feasible, but
Batteries aren't that efficient yet.
no, not electric batteries.
What kind of batteries?
Thermal battery. Like, so you would heat up a large mass of some kind of stone or concrete, and because it's such a large mass that you've heated up over the summer with the heat of the sun. Let's say it doesn't have to be underground; it could be above ground, but it has to be insulated. This mass is holding so much heat that it would be more than enough heat to then pull from that bank of heat to keep a home heated for the winter.
I don't think so.
Why not?
Would require too much mass.
Well, like there's no shortage of mass.
Yes, there is.
There is.
We're running out of sand.
I mean, you could use regular earth. It doesn't have to be sand.
What do you mean by earth?
Like dirt.
Like dirt. Dirt is not as dense as concrete, and I don't think that would work well. Like, you mean like soil?
Soil cools off quickly.
Yeah.
Well, only if it's exposed. But I mean, if you got a tremendous amount of soil and you heated it up and it's a large volume and a large mass of it, it would take a long time for it to cool off. Probably not as long as concrete would, but it would be.
Do you mean compressing the soil first? Like,
oh, you're saying there's too much air in the soil?
it's too much surface area in soil.
Mm-hmm.
Surface area. Would it be more surface area than sand?
We make concrete out of sand, and we're running out of sand. You can't just say that there's no shortage of sand in the world to make concrete.
Wait. With all the beaches in the world, you're telling me we're running out of sand?
We don't use beach sand. We use sand on the bottom of the ocean, and the ocean sand. That we're already realizing that there's a bit of environmental crisis about using too much ocean sand. The thing about sand on beaches and on deserts is that it's the wrong kind of sand. I think it was that it's too uniform.
So it wouldn't work.
Right.
For concrete.
Right.
But could you use it in some capacity to make some kind of a substance that would give you a mass that you could then use it as a thermal bank?
Are you talking about making sandstone?
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't have to have the strength of concrete. All it has to do is retain heat. I mean, so that's one possibility that I think deserves further investigation as far as energy is concerned.
There are some places that when they have different where they want to have a battery for like solar or wind, they'll actually go pumping water up a hill. They have a reservoir they have two reservoirs, one that's at a higher altitude than the other one, and so when they have excess energy, they'll pump some of the water to the higher reservoir, and then when it's like a peak hour and they need to use more energy, then they just have the water go in reverse back down the hill, and they'll use that for some more of the energy. So.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think that there are people working on projects like that around the world.
Yeah, I'm saying that does exist.
It already exists.
Then
that exists, but it's not very efficient.
Right.
There's very special circumstances where that would be feasibly efficient. So I've heard of someone coming up with some grand idea of a battery where you have some sort of tower. And when there's excess energy in the system, the tower will lift these giant cement blocks up to the top of the tower, and then when there's energy that they need, then it would go let the blocks fall down, and then use the energy when it's falling down. But It sounds like it's very good, but it's very dumb. It is very dumb because it's a tower. What's going to happen when it's windy? And there's so many things that can go wrong. So there's many things that sound interesting, but they're not really practical.
Yeah, I would imagine that that's the case. But the question is that the question is are there things that are practical that are being given what's the expression, short shrift?
Sure.
But there's another technology that I read about that is, I don't know, I think it has some potential. It has to do with air conditioning. You know how air conditioners now use compressors and evaporators and so forth. But there was a technology that came out that had to do with sound, and it had these huge industrial speakers that were actually forcing the pressure in a long tube from one end to the other, thereby creating the pressure and heat at one end of the tube while reducing the temperature at the other end of the tube. And in the beginning, there seemed like as if there was a lot of potential for using sound for a new generation of refrigeration creation or reducing temperatures. And in the beginning, it seemed like as if it was like, something wonderful that would make the compressor a dinosaur. And then all of a sudden, the technology sort of like fizzled away. And, it makes you wonder whether it went away because it wasn't practical or actually because it threatened the status quo.
Well, air conditioners already are an amazing miracle of science. It's they're able to move something like 10 times as much heat energy as the amount of energy that they use to move the heat. They're moving the heat away from the inside of your house to the outside. It's not actually creating cold in your house. It's moving the heat out of your house. And a lot of people don't have no idea how the air conditioner works. But I saw someone on YouTube that has a lot of really good explanations, and he's really fascinated by the science himself. And he says more people should be using air conditioners to heat their house, actually, because it's more energy efficient to heat your house with the air conditioner if you just put it in reverse.
Well, that's what they do in North Carolina. Almost everybody has. They call them heat pumps.
Right, the heat pump.
So they just run their air conditioning in reverse.
Right, but around here, the natural gas is so cheap. It's actually it costs less to use natural gas to heat your house,
Even though it's less efficient than a heat pump.
even though it's less energy efficient than a heat pump, because the electric costs more than using natural gas.
Well, I think that that's about to change
Maybe.
with the way the prices are going up for fossil fuels.
So fossil fuels created from oil are a little bit different than natural gas for fuel. They generally have different sources, as some areas have more natural gas and other areas have more oil.
You know that if you use geothermal technology, and I'm talking about the kind, there's a special name for it. It's just when you just dig.
They have lots of that in Iceland.
Yeah, I'm not talking about tapping into a volcano. I'm talking about just having
They have
a
lots-
field.
They have lots of it in Iceland.
Yeah, but there's two different types. There's the type when you're tapping into like some kind of underground hot water geyser or volcano. That's also geothermal energy. And then there's a type where you just basically dig up a field in your backyard that's maybe 6 or 8 feet under the ground, where the temperatures are uniform, 45, 50 degrees, and then they could get that heat into the house. And then even if you're located in Maine or in New York State, you could use that 45, 50 degrees with a conventional heat pump to give you the energy that you need, like as if you were living in North Carolina.
Right. So when you were saying about storing heat underground, or in some kind of mass, that I don't think heat would. It's not easy to keep something hot that long for it to be useful in that way. But this is actually a lot more practical, and it's used a lot more. How you get heat from deep underground, and then pump it up to the building where you need it. You, if you dig deep enough underground, there's heat in the earth, and you can easily use it for heating your own for your own purposes for your building.
Right, right. You know, there are a few other technologies that I came across that I think there's some doubt as to what is going on, and one of them is induction heating. That's another one of those things that when it first came out, oh, induction ovens, and they're so energy efficient, and everything was wonderful and it was good. And I mean, you're familiar with the whole concept of an induction coil and how induction heating works, right? Are you?
Explain for the viewers.
Well, for the listeners, basically it's a coil that wraps around a metal, and there is certain amount of wiring and technology and circuits that are involved that have to make it work, but it increases the coil increases the heat of the metal. And in the case of induction oven or a range, the coils are wound like a record on an old-fashioned record album, and then they heat. If you put your pot on top of that coil, that induction will heat the metal in the pot. But yet, if you take the pot off, you can put your hand right on the stove, and the stove is room temperature. So,
yeah, so that's a common technology in electric stove tops to this day.
right, it is, but it's not used nearly as much as it should be because it's so energy efficient. This is the thing that kind of got my interest. As I was doing my research, I found out that there are foundries, small foundries that melt metal, like people that melt down silver and make coins out of it, that use induction ovens for their foundries. And the thing that my question is that if a foundry finds induction heating efficient enough to melt metal for their foundry, then why isn't induction being used in people's homes as a heating system? You know, and now there might be a good reason, but me, I'm a skeptic, and I do believe in conspiracies, so I would like to have further investigation in that area.
How do you want it to heat the air?
Well, it would have to heat the metal. As long as it heats the metal, then whatever, like for example, if you heat a pipe, whatever is traveling through the pipe, whether it's air or water or oil, it would be automatically heated by the pipe because the pipe is being heated by the coil.
So you're talking about the coil being hot or what's being put in the middle of the coil?
Well, normally in an induction setup, it's what's being put into the middle of the coil.
Yeah, so what's being put in the middle of the coil should be something that's conductive, and air does not conduct at all. Air is a very good insulator.
Well, it's the metal pipe that's running through the middle of the coil that would itself be getting very hot.
So what you would put water through the pipe?
So whatever you put through the pipe would automatically heat up because it would be heated up by the walls of the pipe.
So would it work if you put water through the pipe?
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it should, theoretically. And you know, while we're into this, you know, like brainstorming and different possible ideas, I came up with another idea that sounds kind of crazy. But what do you think about the idea of having a microwave heating system for a home? Did it ever occur to you that if you could heat up a glass of water or whatever you're heating up in your kitchen efficiently, why can't you be heating up water in your basement that would be circulating around the house using a very efficient microwave home heating system?
Is it really more efficient?
Well, that's why we need other people to contact us, because I'm sure that sooner or later we're going to come across listeners that are also into the field of electronics and physics, and I would like to get a dialogue going and see if we're not barking up the wrong tree here or not. That I am not barking up the wrong
A
tree.
microwave antenna large enough to be involved in a home heating system sounds like it would just be too big of an antenna that would be involved in too much of the spectrum.
Well,
And
what makes a microwave oven work is, I think, it's called a magnetron.
Right.
Yes.
Microwaves only affect things that are very close to them. So to have it affect the whole house,
No. It's
they'll heat
affecting
the
the
water.
water running through it.
He wants to heat the
Once
water.
you heat
Yeah.
the water, then you're just circulating it around your baseboards, around the house.
right? So
The whole idea is just to get the water hot.
right, right. So both of these ideas with the microwave and the induction heater, they're using electric, and like I said, with natural gas being so cheap, well, at least in this area, it's a lot cheaper to heat with burning natural gas.
Well, first of all, natural gas is getting very expensive now, number one. And number two, I think that the comparative analysis you're doing is when your electric system is using what they call pure resistance. And resistance is a very inefficient way to heat your house with electricity. I mean, I understand that resistance is not the system that I would want to use. That's why I'm opening up the possibility of using electricity in a different way, like induction or through microwave, as being the alternate ways that would make it less expensive than natural gas, especially with natural gas and everything else skyrocketing in price now.
But we already said that a heat pump would be basically the most efficient home heating with electricity.
Air conditioning in reverse.
Yeah, well, look, these things are, I'm not sure which system is going to win the race, but I think they all need to be looked at. I think that these are interesting concepts for thought and further investigation.
Right.
So, anyway, that's about all I have to bring to the table. Is there anything else you guys wanted to mention?
I think I said everything I was thinking of, so this was a good talk.
All right, signing off then. This is Dan, Ben, and George from White Post Studio. Stay well.